Hello, everyone. Greetings from Germany to wherever you are. I'm just checking if everything is, it seems okay. It seems we're online. I didn't mess up with the time. It seems also. Okay. So, yes, most probably a few more will come by the time, but some are already there. I hope you are well wherever you are. And it seems also that, yes, it will be broadcasted. Today you see me with an unfamiliar background. That is because I'm visiting my mother and have found a little niche where I can do the broadcast. And I think you don't mind that there is not a Buddha statue. There is actually one in this room, but it's not the common Buddhist background where you see me in the monastery. So we agreed upon talking more about practice and also incorporating some suttas. And that is why we will do exactly that. We will, I will read a sutta for you and we will talk about it. So the sutta is about practice. And for me, last time we spoke about practice in general, and I talked about a little bit of my practice. So, and if you remember, I said that I'm practicing meditation already since many, many years. And it had brought me into the ropes, but so far, to get rid of suffering or to get out of suffering has not yet happened. So this often makes me wonder, why is that? I'm a Buddhist since very early in my life, and I'm practicing. I had times in my life where I needed urgently to get out of this suffering, and I practiced like a monster. Also, but I practiced a lot. And I should say good morning to everyone who entered late or who entered just now. So yes, so I practiced to get this enlightenment, to get free from suffering, and yet it's not happening. So why is that? I'm sometimes asking myself, and I know other people ask themselves the same question. Why is it that we are not enlightened yet? We have the best opportunities. We have the best chances. We have been born in a time where the Buddhist teaching is still available. We have achieved a human life form. We have enough understanding and we have enough Dhamma to come to such an occasion and listen to the Dhamma. So why is it that we are still not enlightened? It sometimes it makes me crazy. It can make me crazy, but then I have to calm down and investigate, of course. Investigate the own mind, investigate the heart, and investigate the Dhamma. Also, the Dhamma in heart and in mind, but also the Dhamma of the books, or the Dhamma that has been passed down to us, now in books, but early on just memorized. So there are, when we look a little bit around, we find two suttas or two places where the Buddha mentions what could be the reason. There are, of course, those 24 reasons, those paccaya that we know of the Abhidhamma. Those are reasons for everything. The causes for everything, I should say, not the reasons, but the causes. And among them, karma as one reason. Karma is never the only reason. Karma is always just one possible reason out of more reasons. But also, like, if we have some how you say that, if you have what the kind of food, the kind of people you surround yourself with, the kind of practice that you do, whether the surrounding is suitable or not, all these causes have something to deal with, whether we can become enlightened or not. But here I have now brought a simile, a sutta in the Samyutta Nikaya, 47, number 8, the cook. And it's a simile about a skillful cook and an unskillful cook. And he's talking about the non-skillful cook first. And I read the sutta out and then explaining a little bit about it. And after that, I took. I am, but if you truly. Yes, Chita says, yes, if we practice the Eightfold Noble Path, we should at some point get to the final goal, to freedom from suffering. But still, there are things that are keeping us away, and we are often not aware of them. Or if we are aware of them, we can't do anything about it. So I'm going to read now. Samyutta Nikaya 47.8, the cook. First, about the incompetent cook. Bhikkhus, suppose a foolish, incompetent, unskillful cook were to present a king or a royal minister with various kinds of curries, sour, bitter, pungent, sweet, sharp, mild, salty, and bland. That foolish, incompetent, unskillful cook does not pick the sign of his own master's preference. Today this curry pleased my master, or he reached for this one, or he took a lot of this one, or he spoke in praise of this one, or the sour curry pleased my master today, or he reached for the sour one, or he took a lot of the sour one, or he spoke in praise of the sour one, or he liked the bitter one, or he spoke in praise of the pungent curry, or he was pleased by the sweet curry, or he reached out for the sharp curry, or he took the mild curry, or he took a lot of the salty curry, or he loved the bland curry, the bland curry pleased my master. or he spoke in praise of the bland curry. So, that foolish, incompetent, unskillful cook does not gain gifts of clothing, wages, and bonuses. For what reason? Because that foolish, incompetent, unskillful cook does not pick up the sign of his own master's preference. So too, bhikkhus, here's some foolish, incompetent, unskillful bhikkhu dwells contemplating the body as the body, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having removed covetousness and displeasure in regard to the world. While he dwells contemplating the body as the body, his mind does not become concentrated. His corruptions are not abandoned. He does not pick up. He does not take that sign. He dwells contemplating feelings as feelings, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having removed covetousness and displeasure in regard to the world. He dwells contemplating the feelings as feelings. His mind does not become concentrated. His corruptions are not abandoned. He does not pick up that sign. He dwells contemplating mind as mind, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having removed covetousness and displeasure in regard to the world. While he dwells contemplating the mind as mind, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having removed covetousness and displeasure in regard to the world. He dwells contemplating mental constructs as mental constructs, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having removed covetousness and displeasure in regard to the world. While he dwells contemplating the phenomena as phenomena, or mental constructs as mental constructs, his mind does not become concentrated. His corruptions are not abandoned. He does not pick up that sign. That foolish, incompetent, unskillful bhikkhu does not gain pleasant dwellings in this very life, nor does he gain mindfulness or clear comprehension. For what reason? Because, bhikkhus, that foolish, incompetent, unskillful bhikkhu does not pick up the sign of his own mind. Now, as opposed to that, the competent cook. Suppose bhikkhus, a wise, competent, skillful cook were to present a king or royal minister with various kinds of curries, sour, bitter, pungent, sweet, sharp, mild, salty, bland. That wise, competent, skillful cook picks up the signs of his own master's preference. Today, this curry pleased my master, or he reached out for this one, or he took a lot of this one, or he spoke in praise of this one, or the sour curry pleased my master today, or he reached out for the sour one, or he took a lot of the sour one, or he spoke in praise of the sour one, or he liked the bitter curry, or he spoke in praise of the pungent curry, or he was pleased by the sweet curry, or he reached out for the sharp curry, or he took the mild curry, or he took a lot of the salty curry, or The bland curry pleased my master, or he spoke in praise of the bland one. That wise, competent, skillful cook gains gifts of clothing, wages, and bonuses. For what reason? Because that wise, competent, skillful cook picks up the sign of his own master's preference. So too, bhikkhus. Here, some wise, competent, skillful bhikkhu dwells contemplating the body as a body, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having removed covetousness and displeasure in regard to the world, while he dwells contemplating the body as a body. His mind becomes concentrated, his corruptions are abandoned. He picks up that sign. He dwells contemplating feelings in feelings as feelings, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having removed covetousness and displeasure in regard to the world, while he dwells contemplating the feelings as feelings. His mind becomes concentrated. His corruptions are abandoned. He picks up that sign. He dwells contemplating mind as mind, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having removed covetousness and displeasure in regard to the world. While he dwells contemplating the mind as a mind, his mind becomes concentrated. His corruptions are abandoned. He picks up that sign. He dwells contemplating mental constructs as mental constructs, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having removed covetousness and displeasure in regard to the world, while he dwells contemplating mental constructs as mental constructs. His mind becomes concentrated. His corruptions are abandoned. He picks up that sign. That wise, competent, skillful bhikkhus gains pleasant dwellings in this very life, and he gains mindfulness and clear comprehension. For what reason? Because bhikkhus, that wise, competent, skillful bhikkhus, picks up the sign of his own mind. The curry dishes are like our mind, with all feelings. That's my that's my commentary. So these curry dishes are like our mind, with all the feelings and thoughts that we have, and all the emotion and everything that is going on, and everything that is compounded of our defilements. And this is just like the curry dishes that are compounded of various spices and ingredients. So are we. So are what we perceive as I, me, mine. And we should go through the sutta from the beginning, I think. There are some interesting points in here. So he first speaks about a foolish, incompetent, unskillful bhikkhu. And even this unskillful bhikkhu, this foolish and incompetent bhikkhu, dwells contemplating the four satipatthanas: body, feeling, mind, and mind objects, clearly comprehending, ardent, mindful. And he even has removed covetousness and displeasure in regard to the world. So this bhikkhu that is called incompetent and unskillful by the Buddha is far more probably developed and far more into practice than we ever will be. That is one point we have to be clear of. So this foolish, incompetent, unskillful bhikkhu does what we do. He practices ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having removed covetousness and displeasure. So there is already a lot there. But still, he's not getting enlightened. He's not getting there. He's not becoming free from suffering. So, while he dwells contemplating the four satipatthanas, his corruptions, so his nivarana, his hindrances, and his defilements are not abandoned. And here it says that somewhat cryptic sentence of he does not pick up that sign. And this actually in Pali is Nimita. So he's talking here about the Nimittas, that he does not pick it up. So to pick up the Nimitta seems crucial, but not in a sense, I believe, that we do not get into deep meditative states where we have nimittas and see, for example, lights or whatever. But I think it is, he does not understand what is really going on there. He observes, and he might see the arising, the being there, and the ceasing, which is a lot already. But he does not understand what is happening with it. And that is something that we, with clear comprehension, sampajanya, we have to I wanted to say do, but it's not really do, we have to investigate so much. We have to find out and want to find out what is going on there. What is in this curry dish? Or why our mind picks up this and picks up that. And once we understand it, we will be able to let go of it. When we don't understand what is going on there, it's very, very hard. It's very, very difficult to really let go of it. We can't do samavayamo when we do not understand and when we can't distinguish the unskillful from the skillful. And we need to develop that skill by picking up the sign, by understanding what is it that our mind goes to? What is it that our mind rejects? What is it that our mind craves for? And we do that by meticulously, clearly, and ardent and alert, observing the moment, every single moment that is. And when we do that, it's not that we have to analyze a feeling, like in Western psychology. This kind of analyzation of the things is, if you ask me, and my Thai teachers, this is not necessary. If you observe every single moment, moment for moment for moment for moment, very, very clearly, and with sati, so that you know what was going on from the start of, say, the mind, the thought, and you know it from the beginning to the end, and you have observed every single moment. Then in the end, you will, after observing it several times, understand, just by knowing it, by observing it, and by naming it, you will understand what is going on. And I think by this, we become more skillful. We really understand what is in the curry dishes, or why we like or reject curry dishes and others not. Or we can become like those skillful and competent bhikkhus who really know, and then we really can abandon this excuse me, these corruptions, and we can become concentrated, and we can more and more pick up that sign. And in the end, after a while, I think this really means getting so much into concentration that we have nimittas, that we see lights and colors, but we do not cling to them anymore. In the original version, it was written, he observes the body in the body. This is one of the possible translations of the Pali saying, kaye kayayanupasi. And I translated it as the body, not body in the body, but body as body, and the feelings as feelings. And this I do because you probably remember the Bahya Sutta in the Udana. I think it's number 10, but can be mistaken. But in the Bahya Sutta, the Buddha says you have to train this. The seen is just the seen. The heard is just the heard. The cognized is just the cognized. And the perceived is just the perceived. So things are just as they are. And so the body is just observed as a body, not as, oh, my beautiful body, or my ugly body, or my whatever body, or my feelings. Oh, I'm so unhappy, I'm so happy. No, just feelings as feelings, not more, not less. This is why I tend to translate the kaya, or kaye, kaya nupasi, and vedana, suvedana nupasi, like body as a body, feelings as feelings. There is not much more to that. And the other, to see it as in, or whatever else translations are there, can give rise to perceptions of there is something in it that might be different from what I think. And then we start investigating, and we find things maybe misleading, and not leading us to the clear comprehension of this is a body, and I understand it as a body, not more or less. There's a question which is interesting in this regard. Naming seems like a category. I can't say that word. Categorization. How is that done without analyzing? Well, I mean the analyzation in the psychological sense. In that sense, it should not be done. For me, the naming of the things as they are, so when a thought arises, I name thinking, or when there is a happy feeling, I say happy, happy, happy. I'm not saying, oh, I'm happy, I'm so happy. And I'm not saying, oh, I'm angry about this car again, or this stupid neighbor again playing music so loud. So there is no there's no label in that regard. There's also no there's excuse me, I was distracted, but this question is not for me. So categorize. I'm sorry, can't say that word. We do not, of course, the four satipatthana are categories in which we can observe things. But naming is not a categorization, not a mere categorization. It's also a way of understanding. You know, when you try to memorize something, for example, as a child, maybe your mom has sent you to a shop buying 3 or 4 items, and then you named them to remember them. Because when you say them loud, you know, you remember them. When you try to memorize verses, you speak them. At least you speak them in your mind. Maybe not out loud, but you say them as thoughts. So this is not a mere categorization. This is in order to know, to really understand, to comprehend. It's not an analysis in this sense, because you don't need to analyze, but you will analyze, you will understand, you will comprehend. The more you hear yourself, for example, say angry, angry, angry. And when you have been really clearly alert and aware of your thoughts and your naming process, and you hear yourself after a certain sound, for example, naming angry, 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 and maybe then frustrated, frustrated, distracted, distracted, whatever else, then you understand from that sound, this and that follows. And when you observe and name these things various times, one after the other, if you hear yourself saying again and again, angry, angry, distracted, distracted, then at a certain point, you can't avoid but see there is a lot of anger in your mind, and you understand this is not because of that sound, because you react to everything with anger. So this is why, for me, the naming is not a mere categorization, and it's not an analysis, but it's a real powerful tool to understand what is going on. By just listening to yourself, by just listening, by just picking up that sign, as it is said here in the sutta, by just picking up that sign, something arose in your mind. You pick up that sign, you name it, and you know it. And that is important. Yes, happy to help. So let me see if there's Dogen emphasized practice and awakening as one. Isn't describing awakening as something external, creating dich, to, di, di, oh, oh dear, I'm German. And these words are difficult for me to pronounce. So, first, this question. Yes, thank you. I wish the same to you all. May you all be happy and well. My understanding here of Nimita is the outward characteristic of something. Just like the curry can be sour, our mind can be sour with dosa. Yes, that is so, but it is not only so. I think it is really picking up that sign, as it is often with things that the Buddha says has so profound and so manifold meanings, that yes, it is the first thing that is what you say, John. It is the very outward characteristic, the curry sour and the mind sour. But then in the end, because he is later speaking of concentration that we gain when we do it right, and he's also then talking about nimittas. So I think in the end, when you understand first, when you pick up the sign like that, understand the curry or to be sour, or the mind to be sour or happy or whatever, then in the end, the nimitta is the pure mind, the clean, bright mind, and a possible nimitta gained by concentration. So what else? There was another thing here. Dogen emphasized practice and awakening as one. Isn't describing awakening as something external, creating, I can't pronounce this word, but dichotomy. And I think this is probably something, a separation or something. And I was practicing Zen for long, and I gave up the Zen practice because I found that for me, as a non-enlightened person, it is practice and awakening is not one yet, because I'm clinging to I, me, mine, and I don't have a clear comprehension of anicca, dukkha, anatta. So once I have that understanding and that clear comprehension of these things, practice and awakening is one. But until that time, I have to live with something that is with a practice that is opening to awakening, encouraging awakening, making awakening possible, and believing or trusting so much into my capabilities, or doubting so little in my capabilities that awakening can be always very close and can be almost one. But and understanding. I do understand Dogen says that we all have this pure mind within us, and like we all have this Buddha nature, and I agree with this. If we throw out all the rubbish that we pile up upon our Buddha nature, then there would be no more rubbish, and then there would be awakening, and practice and awakening would be one. But the piled up rubbish is a huge mess between what I perceive as I, me, mine, and the awakening, the state without I, me, mine. So for me to clearly understand what I have to do, which way to go, I cannot say practice and awakening is one, because then I sit there and say, yeah, but why do I not act enlightened then? Or awakened? Why am I still an incompetent, unskillful bhikkhuni? So there are many ways in this world, and many practices, and each of them is valuable. Nothing of that I would reject as wrong or false. So what Dogen says is very beautiful and encouraging, but at one point in my life it didn't help me anymore. So I need to take the things apart and observe them individually. And all that to get over this word, over this separation, over everything that separates the individual from awakening. Okay. Okay. See if there are more questions that I have not answered yet. Thank you. So unless awakening occurs, it is a concept, and the practice is based on saddha and trust upon the Buddha's words. Maybe not in every case, maybe not for everyone, but for me it was very much so, yes. I was practicing Shikantasa for a long time, so the just sitting. And waiting, so to say, for awakening to occur. And just having the things float by. Yeah, it's very similar to the Vipassana practice, actually, but it is not the same. And what I find in the Vipassana practice of Mahasi Sayadaw or Ajahn Tong, we know that there is a lot of work to do until this awakening can take place. We not necessarily need to take it away from us and treat it as a concept, but it is not a reality. It is not true in this very moment. In this very moment, maybe I'm defiled. I wouldn't know what I want, or but this mind is not pure and bright. There are defilements, there are hindrances, there is wanting and rejecting and all these things. So this is kind of separating me from awakening. Of course, yes, then I need to get away with the hindrances, as mentioned before. But it's not just that I say, oh, I want to put away my hindrances to be awakened, and then it happens. And that is actually, there comes into play the second point that I wanted to mention today. The second reason why we are not enlightened yet. That is because of our attachment. And I, for one, have a lot of that. I have abandoned a lot of that just by ordaining. There's so much nekama and so much giving up that you have to do when you ordain. But still, there's so much because it's in my heart. It's in our hearts. So, yeah. So awakening is always there as a possibility, as is the possibility for anger, or as is the possibility for frustration or anxiety. All these possibilities are always there. And we pick up a sign. We pick up things. And in order to understand what we need to pick up and what we need to drop and not go for, we need to observe. So there are a few other things. I'm eating breakfast right now. It's delicious. A happy feeling arises. I think one of the lessons here is that all life is practice and that life is not separate from practice. Is that right? Sadhu Buddha Ruchi. Yes, that is so. And there are other questions. These days, there is a lot of fear. How can we meditate constantly with fear? Do you remember that sutta? It's something that we chant a lot. It's dukkha pata chani dukkha, bhaya pata chani bhaya, sukha pata chani sukha. That is in this mess of suffering, do not suffer. In all this mass of scariness. Don't fear. In all this mass of lamentation, don't lament. So this means that we don't need to pick up the sign of the fear. There's fear, of course. We have not gotten rid of our underlying tendencies and of our predispositions, let me say. Predispositions of greed, hatred, and delusion. And thus, we can have fear, we can experience fear, and we can grasp fear, pick up fear, but we don't need to. We can also direct the mind towards other things that are more wholesome. You know, fear is unwholesome. It's valid and it's strong. It's a very strong emotion, but and we sometimes feel it's overwhelming. But when we learn to direct the mind and we understand that fear arises because of greed, hatred, and delusion in some synchronization, then we understand fear born out of our defilements is unwholesome. And then Samavayamo applies. We get rid of unwholesome states, and then we don't let them arise anymore. And we put in place wholesome mind states, and we don't let them go anymore. So, as much as we think fear these days is valid, it's still unwholesome. And we need to understand that. Of course, you can't go to the, as Thanissaro Bhikkhu says, to the run-of-the-mill person and say, well, you know, your fear is really unwholesome. But for us, for our practice, we observe it and we try to understand, where does it come from? We don't analyze our past lives, but we try to find the moment. Where does it start? And at that moment where it starts, we need to be very, very alert and to have to apply a lot of sati and a lot of samadhi, so that at this very moment we know, no going further that direction. Change of direction into unwholesomeness. But yes, in the beginning, as I said earlier, we should name it. We should meditate with it. We should sit with it. And we should learn to sit well with it. Because contentment is actually not further away than fear. It's just a matter of, what do we grasp? What do we pick up? There were more comments. Not sure. May we say that Theravada practice differs from Chan in that the former is directed while the latter is undirected in the sense of rules and intricate guidelines? Possibly so. That would be one of the differences, maybe. But I do know some Chan practitioners who are really practicing very, very similar to the Theravada Vipassana practice. And other Chan practitioners are, doing almost something like Pure Land practice. So you can't really, I wouldn't want to make the differences between the schools, Theravada and Chan or Mahayana or Tibetan or whatever, because our Four Noble Truth and our Eightfold Noble Path is the same in every school. The differences are there, though, but that might be more according to the teacher and not maybe to the entire school. And Tiknatan's moment. I'm learning how to use these programs. Tiknatan speaks of identifying bijas. 52, I think. I think may be identifying as you speak of sad, happy, distracted, etc. He said he had to memorize a list. Are you familiar with this? Yes. Well, I didn't memorize them, but it's Abhidhamma. And this bija is seeds. As far as maybe it's different from the I'm not sure. I think Tiknatan is rather Sanskrit oriented, whereas Theravada is Pali oriented, and bija, I strongly believe that it means seed. So, and these are Abhidhamma lists that people memorize. And then it helps actually to know these lists, because then you can identify them easier in your practice. I think we have to wrap up soon. How difficult is to practice? Because unwholesome comes from attachment. It's hard work to do every day. Yes, right. That was what I wanted to come to, but we managed to get around it. Maybe we are talking about attachment next time, because this, as much as picking up the wrong thing, attachment is one of the reasons why we cannot get over suffering and experience mind states free of suffering. Okay, I think now it's time to wrap up. I thank you all for being here, for coming to the talk. I hope to see you next week, Wednesday, same time. For me, it's 2:00 in the afternoon. In America, on the New York coast, it's 8:00 in the morning, I think. And well, I can't tell you what time it is in other countries, but until we meet again, be very, very well. There's one very interesting question. Mind reading word. maybe we come to this next time. If you come next week, ask the same question, please, and I will tell you it's not interesting. You wouldn't want to know what other people think because you have your mind full of your own defilements. You don't want to have the defiled thoughts of everybody else also. But that's just my opinion. Okay, be well, everyone. Bye-bye.